if that one is profitable, keep it. If that one's not profitable after a certain threshold, cut it. And just do it again and again and again, and accumulating so many different keywords.
Hey everyone, this is Nazar Akil from Max Pro.
Hi, I'm Linda.
And I'm Paul.
And we're 11 Pebbles.
Hi, this is Lopa Vandermersch from Rasa.
Oh, and you're listening.
And you are listening to the E-Comm Show.
Welcome to the E-Comm Show, presented by BlueTuskr, the #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Maff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the E-Comm Show. I'm your host, Andrew Maff, and today I'm here with Mina Elias, the founder of Trivium Group as well as MMA Nutrition. Mina, super excited to have you on the show. You ready for this? You ready for a good one?
I'm ready, bro, but I'm just disappointed you didn't say that my name is the Egyptian prescription, which is also part of my name, man.
Yeah. So, funny because obviously I wanted to have you on the show. Super excited to get you on, and so when I was told you responded and you did want to be on the show, I was like yes, and I was like all right. So I follow you on Instagram, and I wanted that story so bad, and I was like all right. Why is it Egyptian prescription? Like, what's the background behind that? Because obviously on Instagram, you've done pretty well at starting to slowly develop yourself as, one of these kind of let's just call it what it is, like an Amazon influencer. So what's your journey been in that direction?
Dude, so the story behind Egyptian prescription, I'm an MMA fighter, and I've been fighting since 2013. And I think something like in 2016, my coach was like, dude, do you have a fight name? I said, no, I don't have a fight name. The Killer or whatever, the Hammer or whatever, Silverback, like that, those names. And then they started making fun of me because I posted a picture that I was at this casino one day, and they're like, oh, he's going to the casinos and he's finding girls and saying, hey, I'm a pharmacist from Egypt. I'll give you the Egyptian prescription. and then that name stuck, and that became my fight name. And so that's been my fight name ever since.
That's great. So actually, that brings up an interesting point. So your e-commerce company name, we'll get to the other one in a minute, but it's MMA Nutrition. Is that around mixed martial arts? Is that what that name is from?
So I mean, it is. I didn't know anything about business. So my background's in chemical engineering and chemistry, and I worked in the industry for a long time, five plus years in big corporate, $30 billion company. And then I was kind of sick and tired of working 9 to 5 corporate, and so I wanted to start a supplement brand. And I also happened to be an MMA fighter at the time, but I have a huge passion for supplements, ever since I was 12. So when I started the brand, I'm like, what should I call it? And then I'm like, you know what? I'll do a supplement brand for MMA fighters, and I'll call it MMA Nutrition. But obviously, I think that was a horrible idea looking back, right? It's not the best branding. Also, MMA fighters don't buy supplements that much. So, whatever, man. So that's what happened. But the company's doing well. Everything is good. It's just the power of Amazon, right? No matter what your company name is, you can still sell a ton of products.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so actually that brings up a good point. So your product line, it's all supplements. Do you brand it specifically to MMA Nutrition, or do you kind of just brand it to whatever it is the product is that you're selling at the time?
No. So I follow the traditional brand way. So basically, MMA Nutrition was a brand for performance athletes, and so it's all electrolyte powders. I started a second company that was for women, and it had a different brand. I started another company that was Nootropic Coffee Alternative, and that had its own brand. So I'm, as much as I would love to just put up a product and sell it and not have to go through the whole branding process. I created everything as separate entities and separate LLCs and separate brands and all that stuff.
Nice. Okay. How many products do you have? How big's your product line?
Total between all the brands, 12. 2 of them are belong to one brand, and they're going to be sold pretty soon. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, to make a sale, and I'm downsizing all of my brands because I would love to just focus on Trivium Group, which is the agency. So that's been I always told myself I'll never get married to a business. That was like one of the things that someone told me like when I first started is like never get married to a business. And so I just realized like every dollar and every hour that I put into Trivium, the agency,
Mhm.
it like is way better return on investment than in anything else. So that's where I want to stay focused. I've made so many mistakes in the past of like, shiny object syndrome. Like I'm going to create a course or consulting. I want to do this. And then someone partners with me
Yeah.
and we'll bring them on Amazon. So I've done like so many different deals and things like that. And I'm like, I'm over this. Like I'll just focus in one direction and things will grow.
Yeah. So there are a lot of Amazon sellers out there that eventually find their way into starting their own service-based business one way or another. There's definitely a ton of Amazon ads agencies out there, which I'm sure we'll touch on. There's a lot that just do operational services or listing optimizations, things like that. So what made you realize that you wanted to maybe not necessarily completely get out of being an Amazon seller, but start to pivot into more of a service-based approach as opposed to focusing more on the product approach?
So it's a couple of things. I started the brand, and when I started the brand in 2018, I didn't know what I was doing at all. So I mean, the branding, the product, the everything was kind of back, 2018. Mina, who wasn't like like the greatest entrepreneur, obviously, um, and so as I like got deeper and deeper into the Amazon seller space, and I the company became successful. We hit over seven figures in revenue, but then what happened was I like looked at my salary and my salary was pretty low. And every time I would pull a little bit more out of the business, it would hurt the business and I would need to keep
Mm-hmm.
reinvesting money into the business. So I kind of like didn't see too much of an end in sight in terms of that. I wasn't also in the supplement niche. I was super competitive, all this stuff. And then at the same time, my name was getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the Amazon space. So I started in Facebook groups, and people would ask questions and I would answer. That's all I did. I didn't want anything out of it because I took so much from the groups. I was just giving back. Then I hopped on podcasts. I started sharing my story, my success, my mistakes, my lessons, knowledge with everyone. And so my name got pretty big. And then in early 2021, this aggregator who had raised like 300, $400 million hit me up and they're like, we want you to build our in-house advertising team. We need like systems and processes and all of this stuff. And we heard like you're really good. So I said, sure. I'd be happy to help. I gave them a proposal. And then they were like, we want to test you on one of the brands. So they had like 14 brands at the time. They said, we'll test you on one. And then as I like started running it, me and like my little team, they had
Mm-hmm.
six other agencies running their other brands, and then they're like, hey, by the way, like we were pitting you up against other agencies, you outperformed everyone, so we can move forward with the proposal and everything. And so at that point I was like, wow, like these guys were paying me good money. It wasn't a lot of work. I was adding a lot of value. Like I could see, like I took their revenue from, I don't know, like we increased it like 10% a month, which is solid. Over like 6 months it grew over 50%. And then I was like, so I'm good at this. I have a big name, and I always envied like people like like maybe like Simeon Panda or whatever, who has like a supplement brand, and I'm like, man, I love like how these guys have a huge audience, and then they just create a brand, or Logan Paul has a huge audience, creates a brand, and then they can just sell. And then I already had that, but it just wasn't in supplements. It was in the Amazon space. And so
Yeah.
when people like kept hitting me up, do you manage? Do you manage? I kept saying no, and then finally I'm like, yeah, we'll take on one person, and so I took on one person, and then the next, and the next, and then I realized like we were doing really good. We were adding a lot of value. We were making them more money than they were paying us. So I was like, it's kind of like a perfect fit. So I started leaning more into that, and then I hit a fork in the road, and I was like, I'm either gonna put my time into this or that. And I talked to a lot of people who have like brands, agencies, all of this stuff, and everyone was like, listen, like at some point you're going to have to put all of your effort and energy into one thing if you want to really see that thing grow. And honestly, I already knew that answer because as I was building MMA Nutrition, when I did the second brand and I did my PPC University course and I did like all of these, consulting on the side, it just all diluted my efforts into the brand. And I ended up, I mean, I could have done way more. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I made the decision. I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go all in on this. Like it just from a business perspective, if an investor came to me and said, I'm gonna give you like $100,000, I'm gonna invest in you. Like, where would you put this money in Trivium or MMA or whatever, anything else? Are you consulting? And then I would be like, yeah, in Trivium, 100%. And so that was kind of my answer to like, okay, it's now time to focus on the best vehicle that I have right now.
But you got MMA, well up over 7 figures. What is it you think that was the secret sauce there that got you to that point, that now you have this ability to be like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go service?
So I think it was really how good I was at PPC. So when I started, I started with $500. So every dollar mattered, and then I couldn't compete with just being in the front. So I noticed two things happen when I increased my number of reviews. So I was asking people all the time, like, dude, can you please buy my product? I asked everyone in every single gym that I've ever met, all of my exes, everyone. I was like, can you
You
please?
hustled your ass off.
Yeah, I was like, I'll give you money. Just please leave me a review. And so as I got more reviews, started selling more. So I knew that was one thing, but I also knew it was pretty black hat. It's against Amazon terms of service. But then as I spent more money on ads, then I started making more money. And I would look at the ads and I'd be like, some of these ads, like they're bringing me good money, and other ads are not bringing me good money. So I just started getting more and more and more granular, and then I realized that it was all like testing and accumulation of keywords that are converting. So I'm testing 1,000 keywords, and let's say like one a day, and if that one is profitable, keep it. If that one's not profitable after a certain threshold, cut it, and just do it again and again and again, and accumulating so many different keywords. So, and I'm like an engineer, so I developed systems and processes behind it, and I think that's what helped me figure it out. And if you look at my brand, it's still very, very heavily based on advertising. So if we cut down the ads, everything goes down. If we increase the ads, everything goes up. But I hit a point where I was spending maybe I think 60,000, and I was making 150, something like that, and I was like, okay, I'm making the same amount of profit every single month. However, I need to order so much more inventory, and my cash flow cycle sucks. I mean, it's not that bad, right? Because I actually get like 2 week lead times, and I pay after the product's been done. So my cash flow cycle wasn't that bad. I didn't have a good handle on the finances. Like I know people like Fernando Cruz, like those guys are like incredible with finances, and they know like every little way of how to make your dollar stretch. I just didn't know that, because I'm just kind of learning as I go. So I ended up like scaling things down, keeping the exact same amount of profit, but having a much lower revenue. And I was like, this is fine. I'm still making the same amount of money, and the revenue is lower. It's a vanity metric. But for me, it didn't matter, right? Because at that point I was kind of anyways slowly shifting towards the agency.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then let's cut to the agency. Let's get right into this then. Amazon ads. What's the secret sauce? How are you structuring them? How are you doing your keyword research? Which different aspect? Oh, you got so much real estate now between products, brands, display, DSP, all that fun stuff. Like, what's your approach that separates you from all the other guys?
Cool. So basically, my approach is like there's a couple of things. The first thing is I like track everything holistically. So I'm looking at PPC spend, PPC sales, total sales, because I think total sales are also affected by ads. But then I'm mainly looking at sessions. So sessions, basically, that's what I tell everyone. The main metric for ads is sessions. So the more money you're spending on ads, the more sessions you should be getting. That's all it does. The ads show up, someone clicks on it, that's a session. Now the other half of it is the conversion rate. So I also start tracking conversion rate. Click-through rate is important because it tells me, when my ads show up in front of a lot of people, is it desirable? Is it not desirable? And then I'm also tracking profit. That's my number one metric. Like, it doesn't matter what your eco stock is, whatever it is, that's profit. And then I'm going into kind of two modes. One mode is like the bulking mode, where I'm launching a lot of campaigns, and I'll talk about campaign structure, all that stuff. But I'm launching campaigns. The goal for me is to find as many keywords as possible that are profitable. So a certain number of them, I'm going to launch 100. Certain number are going to be profitable. Certain number are not going to be profitable. And so it's just all about launching, keeping the profitable ones and eliminating the not profitable ones. And, you start maybe with 10 profitable, then you have 20, 30, 40. Next thing you know, you have 200, 300 profitable ones. And then you still have the test budget of getting new ones. And then obviously the profitable ones, you have to continuously tweak them. So anyways, in that bulk phase, I'm just launching, and I'm trying to get as many sessions as I can. my profits will go down. And then in that cutting phase, I'm leaning everything out. I'm cutting everything that wasn't profitable, adding negatives in your auto broaden phrase, search terms that spent money that wasn't converting. And so I'm oscillating between the two. And then every time, I increase the number of sessions, and then I lean out, and my profit dollar amount goes a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. Then in terms of like campaign structure, I'm structuring, one campaign, one ad group. The multiple ad groups I don't like because you don't know how much the money is going to split between the different ad groups. So if I have $100 and then I have two ad groups, it's not going to go 50-50. It might go 90-10. And I've seen that happen too many times, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, other than that $10 that's going to that one ad group. Maybe that ad group ROAS is like 10x and you want to send it more money, but you can't because you don't have control. So I keep it linear, and then the number of keywords I usually stick to like 5, no more than 5. It used to be 10. I reduced it to 5. And what I'm noticing more and more is I'll put a certain number of keywords in a campaign. Just wait 2 weeks, and then or wait whatever 2 months, and then go and look for the last 60 days, which keywords generated sales. And if you notice like 3 keywords generated sales and the others didn't, it just means that those aren't being effectively used. So just turn them off and then put them in new campaigns, right? Because what's the point of having them in that campaign? And then when I see campaigns with like 100 keywords, I'm like, dude, in the last 60 days, these 100 keywords barely got any money, barely got traction, barely got impressions. What you think you're targeting them, but you're not really targeting them. So that's where I would pause and put them in a new campaign. And so based on where I am, let's say I'm bulking, there's only a certain number of levers I can pull. I can either increase campaign budgets, I can launch new campaigns, I can increase bids, I can increase bid by placement. So basically, like I can look at the placement, say at the top of the search, first page, as compared to like product pages and the rest of the search, my ROAS is higher, my click-through rate is higher, so I'm gonna spend more money here. So I put it like a bid by placement, like 50%, meaning I can spend up to 50% more if that means I can show up just for that placement, because historically I'm showing up there. So those are kind of the levers that I'm pulling for the bulking. And then for the cutting, it's all the other levers, which is lowering the bids. I don't lower budgets. I think you should keep budgets always big, so to avoid Amazon throttling anything. So lower budgets, adding negatives, removing bid by placement if it didn't work, and then analyzing your sponsored brand display and video and all that kind of stuff if you're actually effective. So what I've done in the past sometimes was everything will be fine, and then I'll say, like, let's launch some video. Video's crushing right now. I'll launch 10 video campaigns. Spend will go up. I'll look at the video campaigns. ROAS is amazing. But what happens is I notice that the regular PPC sponsored products advertising ROAS drops. And I'm like, why is this happening? And then I look at the totals, and I notice that the total spend went up, but the total sales didn't change at all. And then I'll just cut the video ads, and then the spend will go down. And so what happens is sometimes the video will get that attribution and take it from the PPC, but not generate any additional sales, because it's the same people that are viewing the ads and also viewing your regular like the video ads and the regular sponsored product ads. So that's the other thing that I would do to kind of like cut things down. And that's it, man. It's just, beyond that, it's being very systematic, very granular, looking at the analytics every single week, and just having like a good plan and being efficient.
So you mentioned that you stick to basically having one campaign, one ad group, which obviously I completely agree with, because like you said, it gets spread out. You never know really where. But what are you doing if you're dealing with a really large product line? And how are you structuring that? Like, is that one campaign, one ad group, one product? Or is that one product line? Is that like a certain type of keyword? Like, how are you doing that?
So generally what I'm doing is I'm combining all of the children variations into one campaign. So the campaigns are usually based on parent variation. So I'll never split the variations out, except what I would do is, so I'll start everything combined, right? Child variations combined. Then I'll go and look at the advertised product report, and I'll notice if certain variations are getting better sales than others. So if I notice like the black version is getting way better than the blue and the red or whatever, then what I'm going to do is I'll try turning off the blue and the red and seeing the performance. Then I'll try creating the red and the blue on their own and seeing the performance. because a lot of times what happens is when everything's together, Amazon will show different ones randomly, and then people will click, go in, choose the color they want, and buy. Sometimes when you show the blue, people are clicking and then they're going and selecting the black. And so that's what I noticed happen is they're clicking from one ad and then buying another thing. And so I don't want like kind of to start spending money on one but making sales for the other. I just whatever, at the end of the day, I just want the highest number of profit, right? It doesn't matter how it happens.
Yeah.
And so usually we'll turn everything off and we'll see which product sells the most and has the highest click-through rate, and I'll just show that one for all the ads. And if everyone is coming in from that one and then choosing the different colors, that's fine. So sometimes, you'd make more profit. You would make like less revenue, but more profit because you're not spending on these other ones where people are clicking, but like the ROAS is really low.
Mm-hmm. But what do you do for a significantly larger product line? So if you're doing hundreds of SKUs, hundreds of parents, thousands of parents, are you managing thousands of sponsored product and sponsored brand and video campaigns?
So in terms of that, I've never managed a catalog that big. Like when we're talking hundreds of parents. So that's where I think you have to get into software, some level of software, with a little bit of like automation. I wouldn't say like full on automation, but I would say like some sort of like filters where you can say, for all of like these products, do this. So yeah, I think mapping it out is going to be very important. But I can't say I have like that much experience. I think the most number of parent ASINs I have experience with is like 20, and then maybe like 60, 70 with children. But I haven't dealt with like the hundreds and thousands, and that's why I also don't touch like clothing and not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just like not an expert at it, so I wouldn't do it.
Do you do everything manually?
Yeah, everything is manual. We have our own like macros and stuff and tech in Excel, and it's very streamlined. So we're able to do everything like pretty quickly. But I force whoever all of the strategists on the team that they have to look at the analytics, and then they have to make conscious decisions as opposed to kind of just like have something that automatically runs. Because sometimes you set an automation and it sounds good in theory. You're like, okay, everything that's above a certain ACOS we're gonna lower, everything that's whatever, and then you just let it run. And I in the past I used to kind of have this format of if it's high I lower it, if it's low. And then I realized like because the like attribution for Amazon is not 100%, there has to be an additional layer, which is like it's almost like in the shower, right? In the shower, you're not like calculating. You're just turning the hot water on and putting your hand, and then turning it down, putting your hand, and it's called iteration. And that's literally
Good
like
analogy.
yeah, that's how a lot of it in Amazon is I'm doing a bunch of things, and then I'm like, okay guys, like let's monitor and see what happens. And as we monitor and see what happens, if things go in the right direction, we keep going. If things go in the wrong direction, we scale back. And sometimes logically it should go in the right direction, but it goes in the wrong direction. So that's why it can't be as rigid as like a automation. But having a software where you can like do things at scale, like that's totally fine.
Yeah. I say that I understand how people can be definitely be a fan of automation, especially if they're not leveraging an agency. But like even us internally, like we have a little bit of automation when we do Amazon ads, but I'm the same way where I think it's got to be manually done because a lot of that automation stuff doesn't take into account seasonality or
Exactly.
holidays or Prime Day comes in, it throws a whole wrench in everything. So we really just use it as a safety precaution of like, hey, reduce the bid if for some stupid reason this thing gets really out of hand. Otherwise, everything else we're doing it manually.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really perfect for that kind of stuff. Like, dude, so many times it'll be Saturday, and then someone hits me up and they're like, "We had a campaign that just spent $200 with no sales," and I'm like, "Dude,
Yeah.
why does it happen on Saturday?" And it happens, like literally, it just happens
It's
sometimes.
always the weekend.
Yeah, it's always the weekend or vacation, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that, and then like you said too, like the attribution, they always say that there's like a 24, 48 hour window where everything's kind of up in the air. So to automate stuff where it's optimizing things that were done, let's say the past 7 days, that means it's taking a day or two into account that we have no idea if it's accurate or not. So that whole concept,
Yeah.
there's some software that like they account for that.
But they skip the last 24, 48 hours. Yeah, totally. I think software is a tool, man. Like the way that you use Excel, the way that you use any other software, like it just makes things easier, but you still need like a human brain behind it. And so I think, yeah, like, I mean, I know so many softwares, they sell the dream of like, automate and we'll do this and in real time AI. But I'm like, man, you're gonna have to make the decisions, because you're gonna have to start making the correlations and saying, I told the automation to do X, Y, and Z, and then this happened. And if you're testing one variable at a time, you'll eventually start correlating things. And that's how it is. Like for every single product, I've ever managed, it's like a story. It becomes a story, and you know that the story of that product, and okay, it's different than the other products. This product, when I scaled it, like, and I did this, then this happened, and you start developing like this whole story behind this product, and it's very different. So you can't have like this cookie cutter thing for everything.
Yeah. All right. DSP, pros and cons.
Cool. So I love Amazon DSP. There's definitely some pros and cons. So
Yeah.
pros of Amazon DSP, pros of Amazon DSP. So if anyone doesn't know, Amazon DSP is Amazon's demand side platform. It's programmatic advertising. It uses Amazon's first party data and can advertise on Amazon owned and operated real estate and off of it. So like publisher sites and things like that. So think like Men's Health or CNN or whatever, like those websites that drive a lot of traffic and they get a lot of people to read their articles, and then they have all of these like little banner ads on the site. So that's Amazon DSP. So that's Men's Health or whatever, that's supply side platform, and then we're like Amazon DSP is demand side platform. And so it's super powerful because there's a few things that you can't do with PPC that you can do with DSP. So if you have a product that you can buy like recurring, you can create like a loyalty campaign, and basically I can target everyone who's purchased in the last 365 days from me but hasn't in the last 90 days, and then start serving them ads. And so that's been an easy campaign to get like a really good ROAS on, bring people back who they're not going to come, they didn't come in the last 60 or 90 days to buy. You can also start targeting people who visited you in the last 30 days but haven't purchased in the last like 90 days. So if anyone's visited your listing but hasn't purchased, let's remind them that, hey, you visited this listing. And you can also negate your competitors. Like say, hasn't purchased from me or my competitors. And then you can start going up the funnel, right? You can target people who visited your competitors but haven't visited your page, and then complementary products. And then you can start going up like in market, demographic, whatever. So it's super powerful because it has that first party data that you can't get, and you can like leverage the audiences and utilize that stuff to advertise your product and on and off Amazon. So you can like literally track the people. Now the downsides is you can't run it yourself. You need to hire an agency. And then so that's kind of like where everything starts getting. You have to understand what the agency is doing. It has to be granular. So I've seen so many. I mean, not even agencies. Amazon.com. If you use them like as a service to manage your DSP, they'll combine everything into one order, and they'll just say like, here's all of the products, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what's the goal of this? Like, you just putting all the products and like launching a bunch of ads, like who knows where. So I think granularity is super important. You should be granular with your audiences. You should be granular with where you're advertising. So is it on desktop or mobile app or mobile web? Is it like Amazon owned and operated, or is it like publisher sites? Because sometimes I've seen publisher sites perform really bad. Owned and operated performs amazing. And then from there, it's also the look back windows. So sometimes people like agencies, what they'll do is they'll say, let's set a look back window of 7 days. And what that does is it shows an amazing ROAS, because it says like anyone who hasn't purchased in the last 6 days, that means like that our ad was responsible for that. And I'm like, bro, like they were just on your listing, like they were gonna convert anyways. So if you have like really short look back windows, you can do like 2-day look back windows, or you can do no look back windows, and then it'll be like, wow, someone who clicked on your listing because from PPC, immediately they get served a DSP ad, right? Because that's what DSP is doing, is like, who's visited the listing, let's serve them an ad. So they get served an ad, and because it's not on a click basis, it's not a CPM, it's not a CPC, it's a CPM model, where if it just shows up, it's counted like, oh, you got served this ad. It can literally show up anywhere, and it's like, yeah, we served you this ad, so now we're going to take credit for that sale.
Yeah. So we do a lot of stuff off Amazon as well. And so we use AdRoll a lot. And so AdRoll connects with Google, Microsoft, and also does its own real estate. And it's basically just running display ads, which is the same exact concept as DSP. We always have to sit down and explain it to people. It's a very simple platform, but you need to be educated when you use it because they're going to show that you had hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales on a view through revenue, but then they have click through, which is how many people actually interacted with that ad and got sales, in which case you could actually be losing a lot of money. Now, there's something to say about brand awareness and all that fun stuff, but even with DSP, is because you're taking people back to your listing, you're then putting them back into an ecosystem where there's a ton of different ads. So they could obviously be seeing your ad, like you just mentioned, still get credit for it. They could even click on that ad, but then they're going back to that listing where A, all of your competitors are, or B, your other products are. So if they go to another product, now you're paying for the display, the DSP ad, and you're paying for your own sponsored display ad, in which case both are going to take credit for the sale. So I always have to tell people from a DSP perspective, like you've got to look at like you said, like your profit, your tacos, like understand your overall business, because if you look at just like high level numbers, you're going to think you're rich and you are wrong.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's really a big reason I always like layer on. So I say this is our PPC spend, and this is our DSP spend, and then this is our PPC sales. This is our DSP sales, and that's the total sales. And so then we can start tracking. Okay, as our DSP spend changes, how is our total sales changing? Is it actually going up? And so that's gonna be like really the true measure of DSP. There's also like some baked in fees there. So Amazon bakes in 10%. So you can't advertise on DSP without paying Amazon that 10%. So if you're gonna spend 30 grand a month, they're gonna take 3 grand. It's gonna look like you spent 30 grand, so it doesn't even matter, right? So don't even think about that because Amazon's gonna take that anyways. So no point in even thinking about it. It's just like the cost of doing business. But then agencies can also bake in their fee inside of the ad cost. So you can spend that 30 grand and get like technically 20 whatever 27 grand, then minus Amazon another like so 20, what is that, 23 24 grand. So you're gonna get only $24,000 worth of ads, but it will still look like you spent the 30 grand because the fees are baked in. And then on top of that, agencies will charge a service fee. So like, hey, this is the cost of doing our ads. So make sure that you're aware of that, because if you have really strong branding and products that convert, they're like, wow, like these products are converting really high. If we cut it down by 10%, no one's gonna know. And unfortunately, like the only thing you can do is basically like have to like visually confirm the settings of the orders and everything as they're like building the orders to make sure that there's no like agency fee in there. But yeah, I mean, DSP is super, super powerful. I think it definitely should be. Now people will say, okay, when do I start using it? If I'm doing 30 grand a month in PPC spend or whatever. So for loyalty, I mean, I would say if you're doing 1,000 units a month, you're good enough to start doing loyalty. Retargeting, you need, like any audience to build, you need at least 1,000 visitors a month. So look at how many sessions you're getting every single month. And I think the number one most critical thing is your conversion rate. If you have a decent conversion rate, you're gonna have a decent conversion rate on DSP. If you have a bad conversion rate, DSP is not gonna fix it. So DSP just kind of like gives you more. And then when you're looking at your metrics in DSP, for anything that's not retargeting, you have to look at click-through rate and detail page view rate as the main KPIs. Because as soon as someone clicks on an ad, like from, let's say, a competitor targeting or complementary targeting campaign, immediately a retargeting ad is going to be shown to them. And then if any sale is made, only the retargeting campaign is going to get the benefit. So whenever you're looking at it, you just want to kind of combine retargeting and everything above it. As what's the total spend there and what's the total sales there, and that is your true like spend to sales, ROAS, whatever. But anything above retargeting, just look at detail page view rate and click through rate. Those are the main metrics. So if they're high, keep them running, and then certain audiences are obviously going to be higher than others, and certain placements are going to be better than others. So just focus on the ones that are. You'll slowly refine the placements. Refine the frequency, and you can get better click-through rates by doing that. But that's essentially summary of DSP, why it's good, why it's bad.
Yeah. I think if we were to name this episode, it would be like buyer beware of Amazon DSP.
Yeah.
Like know that shit inside and out. Otherwise, not going to work.
That's honestly, man, that's like the number one thing for anything. I don't know about you, but even for me, like when I start doing Facebook ads or Google ads, like on my own brand, initially, like I thought like I was going to hire like some Google ads guy and he's going to make me $1 million, but it's never the case. And I had to always get educated. And so from now on, like anything that I do, like let's say I was going to do email marketing for my agency or email marketing for my brand, I'm going to go hire someone. You can go find them anywhere, like Clarity, whatever, a Mentor Pass. Hire someone who really knows how to do email marketing. Have them explain everything, the fundamentals, the metrics, KPIs, how do you measure success, all of that stuff. So you like are kind of like are good enough to keep someone accountable. And then when you hire someone, it's like, okay, now I understand what's going on. So at least the expectations, number one, are like kind of better, right? Than thinking, PPC can just solve all your problems or Google is going to solve all your problems. And then at the same time, you know what that person is doing. So like if I'm, let's say, like not adding negatives for like 6 weeks in a row and there's keywords that are spending like $80 and not making sales, you could be like, dude, like what's going on? Like, why do we have these keywords that are spending money? You're not adding them as negative. So that's why I encourage always like to kind of learn before you delegate.
Yeah. Mina, the Egyptian prescription. Thank you so much for being on the show. I don't want to take up any more time, and I can definitely tell that we could do this 4 hours on end. So really appreciate having you on the show. I'd love to give you a minute here to let everyone else know where they can find out more about you and Trivium Group, and we'll go from there.
Cool. I mean, Trivium, the website's triviumco.com, triviumco.com. And then my name is Mina space Elias. So that's Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit me up anytime. Instagram at Egyptian_prescription_Elias. So yeah, feel free to hit me up. I'm pretty accessible. Happy to answer questions on anything, brand building, supplements, PPC, DSP, whatever it is.
Beautiful. Buddy, appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the show. Obviously, everyone that tuned in, thank you as well. Please make sure you head over to ecommshow.com. Check out all of our other episodes. You can subscribe to us on whichever podcast platform you prefer. And, of course, head over to YouTube. You can check them out all there, and you can watch everything live. Well, it's not live, but you get it. But thanks again. Appreciate you all, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the E-Comm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The E-Comm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of the E-Comm Show.